to the first ever midweek mailbag of TJacks Unpacks, where I answer viewer questions. And today, guys, I will be answering questions regarding patriotism, the future of both the Democratic and Republican parties, and universal health care worldwide. Now, if you are looking to get your questions answered on a future episode, you can submit your question any of the following ways. You can comment on any of my YouTube or Instagram content, or you can email me at tjacksunpacks@gmail.com. All three of those links, so to the YouTube, to the Instagram, and to my email, will be in the description. So with that said, let's jump into our first question, which came from a comment on the very first video I did. Well, the second one, if you consider why I started this podcast, my first one, but my video on what the Democrats need to do heading forward following their loss to Trump and the Republicans in the 2024 election. And this person here, which very interesting name here, but nonetheless, basically was talking a little bit about patriotism and being a patriot, and we went back and forth a little bit about that. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about what I think it means to be a patriot or patriotic. So I went to the dictionary first, got to go for the source, and it says one who loves or supports his or her country. Now, in my opinion, supporting the United States and being a patriot has to do with standing up for the values that a country represents and those values that we hold true to being Americans. And I want to add to that, guys, if you love something or you love someone, so say there's someone in your life you care deeply for. So you guys may have this person in your life right now, and they're not doing the right thing. They're going down the wrong track, whatever that may be. Wouldn't you step up and try to help that person if you love them or care about them? I know for me, when I go off the wrong track, I have a wife, I have friends, I have family, I have a host of people who I know will call me out and hold me accountable and be there for me and kind of steer me in the right direction when that is needed. I think when it comes to supporting your country, that's what it means to be patriotic. It's loving what the country is supposed to stand for and what the country is striving to become. So that in the United States, that's protecting constitutional rights, things like free speech, due process, right? For me, that's things like equality and equal justice under the law. That's things in the United States like a functioning democracy where everybody can vote and their votes are counted and matter, and it's not a government set up for the elite, run by the elite, right? We should do our best to set up a country where everyone has an equal opportunity to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? That's what I think it means to be patriotic, to push your country to stand up for the ideals it is supposed to represent. Patriotism to me has nothing to do with pledging blind allegiance to a country or a person or a group of people, regardless of what that group or country or person is doing. In fact, I think that's very unpatriotic, particularly if that group is not living up to the ideals of the country, right? Supporting bad behavior blindly and masking that under patriotism to me does not align. It does not align with my definition of patriotism. And guys, what you will hear me do, and if you've been listening to me already for the first few episodes, and thank you if you have as we're getting started here, you're going to hear me call out both Republicans and Democrats. Because guys, I don't care if there's a capital R or a capital D next to your name as an elected representative, you are supposed to serve the American public. And if you are not serving your constituents and you are doing nonsense to bolster your own ego or your pocketbook, best believe I'm going to do my best to call that out. Because it's about the American people, it's about the country at large and its citizens at large. It's not about an oligarchy, okay? And I'm going to finish it off with this. Historically, those who I find, guys, to be the most patriotic, and these are people who are far more patriotic than me, far more brave than me, are people who would risk being unalived or jailed to stand up for what they believe is right. So those are people like, Martin Luther King is a big one in the United States, or Rosa Parks. And then if we look at South Africa, someone like Nelson Mandela, right? I think those people are true patriots. And obviously, guys, our armed forces who go and have the ultimate sacrifice to fight for our freedoms and our rights are far more patriotic than, once again, and brave than I am. Because I'm not going to be someone ignorantly standing up here acting like I've made a sacrifice like these true, heartfelt patriots have. So that is what I think it means to be a patriot or be patriotic. Let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments. Now, moving on to the next question, which is about the mess of the Democratic Party and who I think will ultimately run for election in 2028 and be the head of the Democratic Party. Now, guys, if you haven't been keeping up with the news, the Democratic Party has reached a historic low. Their approval rating right now is at I think it was 27%, which is devastatingly low. That followed the Chuck Schumer vote and the disastrous fracturing of the Democratic Party, led largely by those individuals in the Senate who voted for that budget bill. So what I am looking for, and guys, keep in mind, this is 3 years from now. So over 3 years from now, and things in politics can change. But as of March 2025, these are who I think would be the best candidates, who I think would pass and focus on policies that benefit you and me, the average American, okay? Actually getting things done for you and me, which I know seems crazy in politics, but it can happen. First one on my list right now is Tim Walz. So he was huge, guys, obviously running alongside Kamala Harris as VP on the ticket in 2024, but he has progressive policies that would benefit large portions of society, guys, and he gets things done. I'm going to actually pull up this graphic now, and I'm purposely pulled up the Fox News graphic where they try to torch his accomplishments like they're bad things or they're crazy leftist lunatic things. But I want you guys to read that list for yourself. I happen to be on the side where I think providing free lunch, providing more rights for the LGBTQ plus community. And keep in mind, that's not more rights than the average citizen. That's just more rights than they have right now so that they have the same rights as an average citizen. Climate change, things like that. If you guys consider those crazy, okay, I would disagree with you. But guys, these are policies that we need that would help us. And when Tim Walz was actually running on the ticket with Kamala Harris, he was often more popular, polled more popularly than Kamala Harris. I think he connects really well with the average American. And I do think, and he says this sometimes, that it's a flex, that his net worth is lower than I think almost every other major political figure. So guys, he knows what it actually means to live on a budget. He's not a multi-millionaire who is trying to guess what we are living through. So I would love to see Tim Walz as one of the main nominees, or one of the main people pushing forward as we lead to the 2028 election. Another one I want to put out there, also a progressive, a member of the House Progressive Caucus, is Jamie Raskins from Maryland. I have seen him a few times on the House floor, guys, and he is a great communicator. He is able to break things down in a way that is consumable for the average American, but I have not seen him wanting to run for president. So I don't know if that urge is there. He hasn't really done the media tours in the way that Tim Walz, or the next person I'm going to get to, has started to do. But often, guys, the best leaders are the people who don't want to lead. But Jamie Raskins, I think, could be a quality candidate for 2028. Last but not least, I'm not as excited about this one, not as progressive as I would like, but he did recently go on Jon Stewart and attack Obamacare a little bit and mention we need some improvements in the healthcare system, but he did stop slightly short of saying universal care, and this name is Chris Murphy. So he wouldn't be the worst candidate. He wouldn't be the best candidate, in my opinion, as we stand in 2025. But he's going on a lot of different talk shows. I think it's pretty clear he wants to, or at least testing the waters for a presidential run. Now, there are obviously, guys, some dark horse candidates, like mainly, I know Jasmine Crockett has been huge in the news recently. I just don't know at this time in 2025 if it's the right moment, but 3 years from now, who knows? Ultimately, guys, before I get to some candidates who I fear that the Democratic Party will try to push down our throats, I think the person who's going to come out on top is the Democrat who is willing to challenge and call out their own fellow colleagues, their own Democrats. Guys, one of the reasons Trump rose to such popularity is he came in and lit the Republican Party proverbially on fire. He went after Mitch McConnell. He went after Ted Cruz. He went after the Cheneys. And these are people, guys, those entrenched politicians are often the politicians that are the least favorable and that people despise the most. And those entrenched politicians are often the ones most responsible for building up the system that we currently have that most Americans hate. So if any Democrat really steps up and starts calling out their colleagues by name, I think they will rise to the top of the card, but that is yet to be seen. Now, who I fear. First of all, guys, I think Bernie Sanders is too old at this point. I think that time has passed, unfortunately. And then on the flip side, I think it's too early for AOC. Historically, guys, if you run for office, particularly presidency, and you lose, it is very hard to come back from that later, rerun, and get elected. So AOC is still very young in her political career, and I wouldn't want that stain of losing on her. And I know, guys, you're thinking, wait, Trump just lost and then won. That is very rare. Trump is a very unique figure. That does not happen historically. Now, I think, guys, right now it would probably be Gavin Newsom, and that puts a pit in my stomach saying it. He is currently on a huge media tour. It has been pretty clear for a while now, he is governor of California, that he has wanted to be a president or at least run for president for a while now. And he has that typical, honestly, greaseball politician look. And on a lot of this speaking tours, guys, he's been repeating a lot of that right-wing propaganda talking point, particularly anti-trans type talking points. My fear is he's what the Democratic Party would normally shove down our throats. What I'm hoping is we're at such a drastic point in time that the Democratic Party, the DNC, will realize that Gavin Newsom is not going to win in 2028. Similarly, guys, Cory Booker, I think, is in a similar category. He seems to be setting up a run, but I do not think his policies are left-leaning enough. I don't think they're honestly radical enough to inspire people. And I just don't think he would inspire enough voter turnout to flip enough people or flip the majority to Democrats. And I think Pete Buttigieg, guys, is similar. Although Mayor Pete, he is a great communicator in my opinion, but I don't think he's inspirational enough. I just don't see him being the choice. I also, guys, want us to stay away from celebrities. Stephen A. Smith's name has been thrown out there. Please no. Please no. And same, guys, goes for Jon Stewart. Now, I would be far more pro Jon Stewart than Stephen A. Smith because Jon Stewart's career has been in political commentary. I would say listening to both of them, Jon Stewart is far more aware of how the government works, like our systems, things like that, than Stephen A. Smith. But guys, I would much rather prefer someone who actually has worked in government and understand how government works to ascend to the highest governmental position we have in our country. I don't like the idea of throwing celebrities into government positions. Just not for me. And what we've seen with Trump, it has just buttressed that point for me, that I do not want to see random celebrities thrown into high political positions. Now, on the flip side, or on the other side of the coin, we're going to talk about the other side of the coin. I think I said corn, but other side of the coin. Where will the Republican Party turn after Trump? And out of the 4 questions I'm answering today, this one is the hardest for me because Trump is a very unique figure in the sense of a lot of the things he has done. And I'm thinking of putting together an episode where I unpack some of the most insane things he's done. Let me know if you guys want to see an episode like that in the comments. But what he has done would normally get political figures like ostracized and like unelectable. But he has been able to do thing after thing, and it seems that his base will follow him no matter what. So because of that, that strategy is going to be hard to replicate. So that ultimately leads me to, in 2025, he will likely just endorse whoever licks his boots the most and boosts his ego the most. It's not going to be someone who's challenging him. Trump doesn't like challengers. He likes surrounding himself with yes men, and people are going to just do whatever he says. So whatever Republican candidate I feel like, massages his back and his ego the most, he will endorse, and that will become the leader of the Republican Party. And this is assuming, guys, that he doesn't try to run for an unconstitutional 3rd term. And this is also assuming we have elections in 2028, which I do not think that is 100% certainty that will fully happen, unfortunately. But nonetheless, I think all of these candidates that I'm going to mention as of 2025 would be terrible for the country. And I am not ignorant to the point of thinking that these Republicans will magically become enlightened and change their political stances, particularly after winning in 2024. So first one I'm just going to knock off the bat is J.D. Vance. I don't think there is any chance he becomes the new leader of the Republican Party. I think he's too cookie cutter and milquetoast for most of the MAGA Republicans, because guys, the reality of politics is most people aren't looking in depth at policy, and if policies, will benefit them, it's mostly personality and presentation. And I don't think J.D. Vance will rally up people the way Trump did with his personality. So I don't think there's any chance of J.D. Vance unless Trump does a 180 and fully endorses him. But Trump's been a little tepid with J.D. Vance. Sometimes he loves him. Sometimes he's a little more lukewarm on him. I think these next 4 are far more likely, and I'm going to start with Josh Hawley. He's an election conspiracy theorist. Now, he's smart, so I don't know if he actually thinks the election was stolen or he's just using that to gain political clout. But he also does not believe in a woman's right to choose. But what makes him dangerous is he engages in a lot of populist rhetoric. So, for instance, he is part of a co-sponsored bill with Bernie Sanders to cap credit card interest payments. So you have that, which if the American public hears is like, oh my God, Josh Hawley is great. But if they don't take the time to dig into all the other stuff, it's a really scary proposition, right? But I think his populist rhetoric could trick and manipulate a lot of people, unfortunately. Next one is Nancy Mace, and I am putting Nancy Mace up there just because she makes a lot of noise. She was recently shouted trans slurs on the House floor, and unfortunately, guys, some of the Republican base absolutely loves that. It is what it is. If you're listening to this, you probably hate it. And I hope if you're a Republican, you don't think you should be able to shout trans slurs on the House floor. But some of the Republican base absolutely loves it. And it does generate attention, which generates donations, which generates money. And money runs things in the United States of America. So she is someone who's on my radar a little bit. And then the final 2 are both celebrities, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens. I'm going to keep it very short on these 2. I would just encourage you, if you are someone who thinks either of those 2 would be great candidates, look up some of the things they have said. some of the more troubling things they have said. And I think within 5 minutes, you will be dissuaded for thinking they are good representations for the United States of America. And I will leave those two at that. Now, that wraps up the future of the two parties. I'm going to finish with a question that was posed as a comment to one of my videos I made about what it means to be a progressive. But this person was specifically talking about universal health care in countries that use universal health care. So you asked, I will deliver. Many countries have universal health care, including Australia, Sweden, Switzerland, Germany, New Zealand, Canada, the United Kingdom, and that is not an exhaustive list. There are many more that have government-provided guaranteed health care. Now, this map that you see on your screen now is a color-coded map where blue represents countries with a universal government-provided healthcare. And you can see the United States there in yellow because we have a mixed system that does not guarantee health coverage to all of its citizens. And in fact, we as the United States are the only developed country not to have universal health care, even though Germany had figured that whole thing out in the late 1800s, yet the United States, as the richest country in the world with the most resources, still cannot figure that out in the year 2025. And lastly, guys, I'm going to finish with this last chart here. We spend more than any other country, which would be fine theoretically if we got the best outcomes, but we don't. So in this study right here, comparing 10 other developed countries, we ranked last in healthcare, 10th place out of 10, even though we spend more per capita than any of those other 9 countries. So guys, the data is clear. It's not really controversial. Around the world, countries that are using a one-payer healthcare system overall have better health outcomes, have better health results. We have just been tricked into thinking all the other countries are extreme, when in reality, we are the extreme country when it comes to the way we care for our citizens. All right. So that wraps up the first ever episode of Midweek Mailbag. I'm very curious to hear what you guys think. And please continue to submit any more questions by commenting on any of my content or emailing me at tjacksunpacks@gmail.com. And last but not least, before I close out here, please continue to help grow the channel by liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, all that good stuff to be a continuing part of a political movement that puts the average American first. So on Sunday, guys, it will be my next episode will drop, and it will actually be my first guest. I will have someone on to talk a little bit about the intersection of dating and politics in 2025. So I will see you guys on Sunday.